Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
America's on the rails. What we're trying to change tonight. From the halls of power to Main Street lights, we're tracking the shifts, exposing the fights. Truth seekers rising in heartland flame. Ricks calling names and we're joining the game. No filters, no fear. We pull back the veil. When the system rebels, we refuse to pale. America off the rails. Wake up calls and rebel tales. A chain horses in the news. Standing strong with nothing to lose. DC drama to state level plans. We're calling the shots that'll shift the
And
sands.
happy Monday night, ladies and gentlemen. I know that is a contradiction in terms, but we're here. You survived Monday day, which leaves you now only with Monday's Kissing Cousin Tuesday on your near horizon. But I hope you guys had a great Monday. I, for one, was really busy today, which was why there was no afternoon show today. However, I will be back on Wednesday with that one. And I am here with you now because if you missed it last night, I was on BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon and we did a roundtable on the whole Iran thing. But I still have more that I want to talk about with that. But I'm going to take a slightly different angle. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some of the usual stuff because there's plenty of things to talk about, like the fact that, I think the Trump administration is missing a key spin point here, and I'll be getting to that in a minute. But also, I want to talk about the fact that, it's funny because remember, I was born in 1973, so I'm part of the generation who, got used to, shows like Sanford and Son being on TV. We were a generation past integration. So having people of color in our schools was no big deal to us. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, didn't matter. We played with what we now call Native American kids. Kids of color. Didn't matter where they were from, because it didn't matter. They were just kids. But at some point along the way, we got lost again. And no part of the movements in America have been more lost than the movement of feminism. Because trust me, feminism actually had a place for a while. I believe it truly did. At the same time, I also kind of think it might have been a government psyop. But I understand why it had a place. But the scariest thing about feminism today is they have taken the entire idea of feminism and turned it on its head. And now it's all about supporting transgender women, not actual women, which is funny because when you see what's happening in Iran and you see the Iranian women there getting, whether it's short-lived or not, and hopefully, dear God, it's not short-lived, a taste of freedom, and you see them dancing in the streets with makeup on and with their hijabs off, and for the more extreme ones, their burqas off. And you just see them dancing in the streets and having fun and shouting, all, not death to America for the first time in 47 some odd years. Um, it's just it's been insane to me to watch because there's just clip after clip after clip. I have so many things to show on the screen. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get all to them within an hour. Um, but we're going to try anyway. So hang on. Let me get this sorted out here. It's going to look a little weird for a second because I did not do this in advance because I was doing other stuff. So why don't we do this, which is why I always do this on a separate screen. And let me get back over here so you guys are looking at me talking while I still continue to try to talk a little bit. But some of this, and yeah, I mean, there's all kind of, well, actually, you know what? Before we get into all the fun stuff, this is for the people that still don't seem to understand why this is as big of a deal for us that have been alive long enough to remember some of this stuff and why it is that we're not, everybody's like, oh my God, we started a new war. No, we didn't. Iran declared war on us in 1979, and we never really did anything about it. And just to be completely blunt and completely frank with you, they declared open warfare on us again in December of 2025, which puts one of the clips that I may play here in a little bit in a completely different light when you remember that in December, they already said that they were at war with us. We might not, and again, I've been saying this for a long time. We have been at war with Iran for a long time. We have not wanted to acknowledge the fact that we were at war with Iran for a long time. Yeah. I see you over there, youngster. Alive for many, many years. Smartass. Surrounded by smartassery. All right, so here's a bit of a history lesson. This is how it started.
So it was November 4th, 1979, when the Islamic Republic of Iran stripped 52 Americans, their freedom, their dignity, and their pride.
52 hostages were held for 444 days in Iran from the end of 1979 until January 1981.
My father was William Kyo, and he was a hostage in Tehran. He was only supposed to be there for the weekend, and all hell broke loose.
They brought Iranian women to the front door, then used them as shields as they broke through the American embassy. So I will never forget the human rights of what they did to the Iranian women then, and obviously what still goes on to this day. Through the broken windows, I can remember hearing the traffic start in the morning, peak, and then die. And there would be day 1, day 5, and you're sitting there thinking that you're forgotten.
From God, my family, and my country. And it was in that order that kept me alive and surviving through that.
We were released January 20th, 20 minutes after President Carter left office.
There's a difference between relations between the Iranian people and the Iranian government. They're two totally different things.
The people of Iran look more towards Western culture as something that they are interested in and enjoy. The regime obviously is opposed to the influence of Western culture in Iran.
The younger generations are coming up, and they're not in the same mindset. They want more freedom. They want to be out in the world, and they're being taken backwards now. instead of being able to move forward.
I truly believe that there's many Iranians that would love better than what they have. So, as they would say in Iran, inshallah, with God's will, that might happen.
All right, so again, for those of you who don't know why this has been such a big deal for those of us that have been alive since the 70s and some of us even older, is that I remember, now granted, I was a little kid, but I remember watching some of it on the news and I didn't understand it, but I knew enough watching the look on my parents' faces to know that they were absolutely terrified about everything that was going on because that would have put me between the ages of basically 6 and 9 when all, well, hang on, 6, 7, and 8. Sorry, yeah, 6 and 8 when all that was going on. So I was young enough that I didn't really understand a lot of it, but I knew my parents were really upset about it, and that enough instinctually was enough to put me on edge. But because I am a history nerd and I have loved history and I've studied history, mostly US history. I have to admit, world history kind of bores me. But I absolutely love US history. So I have studied all of it that I can find for most of my life, and I am an autodidact. So I enjoy teaching myself new things much more than I ever really enjoyed classroom stuff, but still. Um, so I say all of this to you because we have a bunch of 20 somethings and 30 somethings and 40 somethings that have come up in the blogosphere, the media sphere, and the social media influencer sphere that are now screaming and yelling about how, oh my God, Donald, I didn't vote for this. Donald Trump drug us into yet another new war. We have been at war with these people since 1979. We may not have ever wanted to face it. We may not have ever wanted to admit it, but at least, if nothing else, they have been at war with us since 1979. And the scariest part is it's our own damn fault. Now, I kind of get it when I researched this because it was either 1953 or 1954. The Iranians held an election and they swore in a duly elected prime minister. Well, all of a sudden, that prime minister wanted to go the way of Venezuela and start privatizing their oil and making it, government owned. So, of course, Great Britain was heavily invested in their oil at the time. So were we. So Great Britain was pissed because, what eventually became BP, British Petroleum, was the company that was putting all the money into getting the oil out of Iran in the 50s so that the rest of the world could have access to it. And then let's not forget, we're talking 53, 54. This is less than a decade removed from everything that we just went through with yet another socialist regime. So our government decided, hey, we're not going through this again. Because remember, there's been this historical argument for 70, 80 years now. If you had a time machine, would you go back and assassinate Hitler as a baby if you knew it would stop World War II? So that was something that was already running through a bunch of people's heads that were cabinet level members during all of this. And they're like, well, maybe we can stop this one before it starts. So we started doing our little behind the scenes sneaky stuff. And the next thing you know, the duly elected prime minister has been removed. Royal family has been installed. And eventually there was an Islamic revolution who overthrew the royal family. And now here we are. So, yes, this is something that I've been saying for a long time. This is our mess. It is well past time that we cleaned it up. We should have cleaned it up in 1981, but we didn't. We had another opportunity to clean it up in 1993. We didn't. We had another opportunity to clean it up when we really should have definitely cleaned it up after September the 11th, 2001. You know how many people that I have seen and heard in the military that have basically been saying over and over and over again while they were in Iraq that they knew where the munitions were coming from. They knew where the attackers were coming from. And even as recently as under the Obama regime, they would send information back to their commanders and say, "Hey, can you tell these people that Iranian insurgents are trying to kill us with Iranian weapons?" And the Obama regime, the Obama administration sat on their hands. This has been a problem for us for over 47 years. For everyone who wants to think this is something new for Donald Trump, this has been his position for as long as he has been speaking publicly. America needs to be projecting a position of strength. If America projects a position of strength and follows through on that position of strength, every other country will fall in line. He's been saying that since he looked like Barron looks today. That's how long he's been saying that. I didn't notice how much Barron looks like his dad until I saw a 20 something, 30 something shot of Donald Trump. I'm like, oh my God, Barron is like little Donnie. That's kind of scary. Which is weird because all my boys look like me and they're all looking at me now going, does this mean I'm gonna look like you someday? I'm like, ha ha ha, probably. Sucks to be you. Right? Yeah, Al in the chat. You mean pellets of cash didn't clean up the problem? No, as a matter of fact, that made it worse. Because, and I've said this on a lot of shows, we have this problem, and this is a huge liberal problem, especially the awful contingent of liberalism. You know, the affluent white female versions. They think everybody thinks like them. Because they think everybody thinks like them, they think everybody's going to respond the same way they would if somebody starts throwing them pallets of cash, which is, you know, to go do a Saks, what, let's just do Rodeo Drive, fancy Rodeo Drive shopping spree, and then they're happy. Yeah, no. See, if anything, that to those folks projected weakness, which they respond to not in the way that we do here. We try to protect people that are weak, at least on the face of it. We project, oh, well, we have to take care of our homeless and we have to do this, we have to do that. And then you find out governments and politicians and leaders are exploiting them instead of protecting them. So we like to pretend we do all the nice things, and then we usually hide the fact that we don't. This is but Iran, they don't hide nothing. They don't hide nothing. These are the same people that will throw acid on your face if you have a hair out of place under your hijab and they can see it. This is what I need you guys to understand. Especially for women, and I've been saying this now for a few days. I have sons and daughters, but as a father of daughters and now a grandfather of granddaughters, I always thought that I at least could logically understand what the women of Iran were going through because I see the pictures, I see the footage, I see the occasional leak out of, you know, she was caught out with her hijab out of place and some one of her family members because it was a right of honor threw acid on her face. So I always thought I could understand it. And then I started seeing some of what we've been seeing over the last few days. And that is what we're talking. That's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. So first things first, I want to show you this. Because hang on. If you don't understand what's happening here, I'll be explaining it in a moment, but I just want you to watch this. Now, I want you to notice something. These women and these young girls, they have mics on because they are required, legally required, to the point of potentially being put to death when they go home, required to sing the Iranian national anthem. And yet they're not. This is the face of a woman who understands that they have, for the first time in 47 years, a taste of freedom. This was huge. This is defiance. This could get every one of these people killed when they go back home if we fumble, which is why we can't fumble. I'm not saying we need to nation build. I said this last night on BZ's show. You know what? We don't need American boots on the ground. All we need to do is keep pounding the crap out of these idiots and then let Israel go in and do the nation building. They're their neighbors anyway. Let them do that part. We don't need to do that part. If we can't trust Israel enough to help to shape a democracy, then why are we always partnering with Israel? But I'm going to let this finish playing first because, like I said, there's tons of things that I want to talk about tonight. All right, so in case you didn't know what was happening here, this is the Iranians women's national football team refusing to sing their anthem of the Islamic regime tonight at the opening match of the Asian Cup in front of the entire world. In front of the entire world. These young women just risk their lives to prove a point that they want freedom, that they now know what freedom tastes like because they knew it's in our DNA. There's a reason that is in our Declaration of Independence. We have a God-given right for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The reason that is in our Declaration of Independence is because our founding fathers began to understand that that is part of our DNA and it's part of everyone's DNA. And this is proof of it. These women standing up and defying a regime that we pray to God is in its death knell phase and saying, no, I'm not doing this anymore. He's dead. He's dead. I'm not doing this anymore. And then of course they tried to appoint somebody else, and like an hour later they were dead. Now they're talking about Khomeini's son taking his place, and he'll probably be dead. It's just all of this is just astounding to me to watch. We are watching history in the making if this happens as it should, and I truly pray and hope that it does because it's just astounding to me to watch. Now, we played this clip on BZ's show last night, but I'm going to play it again because this takes everything that the left has been telling us about the region of the Middle East and just turns it on its head. And I'm not saying anything else until after we watch because I don't want to spoil it, but because I don't want you guys to know where this is or what's going on until I tell you. But I need you to pay attention to this right here. So hang on, let me see. Can I? Yeah, let's do this. It's not big enough, so I'm going to do that because it's one of those weird screen ones. All right. All right, so for those of you who don't know what that is, that was in London. That was Israelis and Iranians dancing together in the streets. Which is something we've always been told here would be impossible. This is something that we were told would be impossible. And yet it's happening everywhere, because that's not the only instance of this. Just remember, just a couple months ago, we're watching violent protests everywhere. Violent protests everywhere for what's going on with ICE. And now you're watching the exact opposite happening here. And you have so many people from Iran standing up and telling people the truth in front of microphones. Here's another one. This one floored me when I heard it. So we're like I said, I'm gonna get through as many of these as I can, because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to fit them all in the hour.
Mr. Mark Ruffalo, why are you talking about the ICE, that one single woman that died, that came in front of ICE? I don't understand where you guys want to take this with Gaza and Hamas and the Islamic Republic of Iran. Neither of you have lived under the Islamic Republic tyranny that you guys are talking about the death of one single woman that have came in front of an ICE agent, a police. And you guys are talking about, you guys have human rights. You guys have everything that you need in your life. We have been taken, our lives have been taken away from us. You guys have everything, and you guys once have one president in your country that wants the best for the people of America that have built the land for 250 years. America has a right to have a country. America has a right to have a country as much as Iranians have a right to have a country. So let's get the facts right here. All right? Let's not get ourselves lost in this illusion that you guys have been building for us, for people. All right? Mr. Mark Ruffalo, why are you talking about the...
So that dude's mad. And he has every right to be mad. But that's because there has been this sanitized version of everything that we have heard. Because remember, anytime we talked about, not wanting women to have to wear a hijab. Now, if they want to wear one, I don't care. If they want to wear a burqa, I don't care. Wear what you want. But as soon as we say, hey, are they forcing them to wear those things? Or are they being, well, it's their culture, and you're slandering their culture. And this just proves that you're an Islamophobe. No, this proves that they're morons. This proves that they're morons. Now, here's another little clip of Iranian women in LA, of all places. One of the places where we just had a bunch of violent protests. Look at this protest. Well, I don't guess we can technically count it as a protest. More of a jubilation, I guess. But yeah, look at the difference between what Americans do these days and what actual free women do. Okay, so I'm going to bring this out a little bit here again. First of all, props to this dude who kind of looks like he's trying to flirt. Brave man, just saying. Brave man. Mad props, bro. It doesn't look like it did you much good, but mad props anyway. So I'm trying to look at this wider shot. Look at this. Look how many people are there. Is there any rioting, any looting, anybody being, burned in effigy? Funny. Seems again, actual feminism is still alive, just not in American women anymore. Kind of a terrifying thought when you think about it. But here we are anyway. All right, so let's see. What else we got? Oh. Okay, so here's another one from LA, but we're going to play it anyway. Hang on. Okay, so a couple of things I want to point out. What you want, baby? Notice how they have the streets blocked off. Notice how there's cops blocking off the areas that people are doing their celebration in. You know what that means? You know what that typically means for somebody who's worked these kind of things? That means they got a permit, most likely. And they coordinated with the police. Sorry if I'm looking a little freaked out on cameras because I just realized I have a giant spider on my microphone. That was almost fun. Hmm. You know what? We're gonna take a short break. Sorry, I wasn't planning on taking one, but I'm gonna make sure I'm not about to die. Whew, I don't know. That was okay. Let's see. We'll just play this one. We'll be right back. Don't go too far.
They shut the lights down in the city, say the system's on the ropes, while the same hands that broke it hold your paycheck and your hopes. They'll sell your sweat for silver, call your sacrifice relief, but every drop of truth we bleed writes another line of belief. Freedom isn't free, it's carved in blood and fire and stone. It's the price of stand tall when they tell you to kneel and go home. They can lock up every promise, tax the air we breathe, but they'll never chain the hearts of those who still believe. 'Cause freedom isn't free. They preach peace from marble towers while they fence off your front yard. They wave a flag made out of rules and call obedience smart. They'll brand your voice as danger, they'll mock your faith as greed. But freedom don't need permission, it just needs men who bleed. Freedom isn't free.
Apple's out. All right. For those of you laughing at me, I live in the country. The spiders are very tension knobs on my microphone. Where did you come from? So that's enough of that. All right, so we're back. We're live. Plenty of things to keep talking about. Now that I've hopefully done having a stroke for a moment. Oh boy, that was fun. That was fun. Not really sarcasm fun. But yeah, so look, organized, pleasant, not disruptive, filed for a permit. This is how things like this are supposed to work. I mean, I have to admit, I'm guessing that they filed for a permit, but with as orderly as LAPD is being and everything was cordoned off, I'm pretty sure they filed for a permit. But that's just a guess, really. All right, so here's this one. We got to talk about this one. This is from Sky News Australia. And yeah, this was fun to watch too. The leftist narratives just absolutely getting blown up lately have been fun.
I want to conclude this editorial
Hang on, let me fix this.
with this message to the late Supreme Leader. پدر سگ خاک به سرت بسوز تو جهنم. Rowan.
Couldn't have put it better myself, Rita. James, don't you agree? I
A little bit of gibberish, but
I don't have anything to add to that. That's it.
I want to conclude.
Okay, so yes, in her own language. this just so you know, this was the translation. In a message to the late Supreme Leader, you son of a bitch, burn in hell. You son of a bitch, burn in hell. All right, so there's one more kind of longer clip that I want to play before we get into some of the other stuff, because I just looked at the clock and it's almost 9:40 already. Anyway, all right. Am I still on? Yeah, I am. Okay, sorry. I couldn't remember if I changed off that screen or not. So let's do this. All right, here we go.
Iranian here with another pro tip for anyone who's not from the Middle East. In order to understand why Iranians are fighting against the Islamic Republic and want their Shah to return, there are 3 facts that you just have to accept. Number 1, Iran is not a Muslim country, and prior to 1979, we were a modern, secular, westernizing nation. Number 2, the 1979 Islamic Revolution, or as I like to call it, the Islamic coup d'etat, was not an organic movement. It was orchestrated by communists and Islamists, and it was funded and supported by Western nations. And number 3, the Shah of Iran was not a dictator. In fact, the Shah of Iran was protecting Iranians from Islamists and communists. Unfortunately, everyone in the West has just dealt with the historical revisionism that's been put out there by communists and Islamists to justify taking over Iran in 1979 and turn it into an Islamic hellhole governed by Sharia law. So if you're wondering why Iranians are taking to the streets and protesting against Islam, wanting to overthrow the Islamic Republic, and calling for the return of the Shah, the current king in exile, His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi. That's because everything you think you know about Iran and everything the Western media, communists, leftists, and Islamists have told you about Iran is a lie. And now you know.
Well, we would like to think that they know, but the problem is they don't care. See, here's why so many people are mad, and it's not why you think. This is why so many people on the left are angry right now. This is why so many people in the UK are angry right now. It's because Donald Trump has taken the New World Order and ripped it to shreds. These people behind the scenes since World War II have been moving towards the idea of a centralized government for decades. And Donald Trump, in the space of a bifurcated 2-term presidency, has taken all of it and started the process to rip it to shreds. One of the biggest things that everyone is missing who is screaming and yelling about Iran is the fact that if this works, and yes, it is a hell of a gamble, but if this works, this cuts off another huge chunk of oil supplies for Russia and China, which next to Iran and North Korea are only 2 of the 4 baddies that we have left. Iran, yeah, 50-50 if we do it right, that they get a chance to put a government together that reflects them. But let's not forget that in 1953, they were ready to go socialist. I'm hoping that since the younger among them have been under thumb for their entire lives, socialism won't be as appealing to them as it seems to be for our youngsters here. But we have to give them the opportunity to determine their own destiny. We were the ones, and I say we loosely because I wasn't alive yet, but we were the ones who took that opportunity away from them, and it is way past time that we gave it back. I said this as soon as I saw this popping off because, as usual, the one time I managed to sleep in on a Saturday, I wake up and the world is on fire, and I'm like, "What did I miss now?" And I'm like, "Dude, this is something that should have happened in 1980. This is way past time of something that needed to happen, and I'm so glad that it finally is. Because again, in 80 we should have done it. In 2001, we definitely should have done it because we knew, even though it was the Afghanis and supposedly, what the hell is his name? Why can I not even remember his name anymore? Probably because he's been dead now for forever. But the supposed mastermind of 9/11, I guarantee you there were Iranian ties to that. I guarantee you there were. I guarantee you there were. And we knew it then. And again, look, I get it. Russia was stronger then. This is one of those things where it's really easy for us to say this is something that should have happened in 1980. But Russia was in a lot better position then than they are now. Even in the early 2000s, Russia was in a lot better position than they are now. Russia has been overextending itself in Ukraine, which is insane when you think about it, which is another reason why this was yet another domino that made this the perfect time to do this. And in the last few minutes of the show, we're going to take apart this idea that the only reason we did this was because Israel was about to strike. No, we did this because they told us again in December that they were at war with us. Donald Trump doesn't play that shit. They're used to being able to say stuff like that with leftist presidents. They're like, they don't really mean it. No, he assumed they meant it. So he started taking steps in case they meant it. Then he was like, I see you guys are starting to try to enrich uranium again. We thought it would take you longer to do that. We should probably talk about this. And at that point, they were, last we knew, somewhere north of 60% enrichment again, which is well past what you need. Here's an interesting tidbit that for what they were saying they were going to use it for. Here's an interesting tidbit that I did not know. I did not know that one of the things that we put on the table for these people was if you really just want uranium to be able to produce energy, we will give that to you in perpetuity for free. And they said no. If they were really just trying to create atomic energy, why would they say no to free fissile material for forever? Because that wasn't what they were actually doing. Because these people believe that they are going to be the ones to usher in the caliphate, which is their version of the end times. They believe it is their destiny. And I'll be honest with you, according to Revelations, it is part of their destiny. But while we are getting there, I honestly don't know if we're there yet. But I will say this over and over and over again. For all of you modern feminists today, if your grandmothers were alive, they would be bitch slapping the lot of you. Because they wanted this for Iranian women almost as much as they wanted it for you. Now you have all of it. Everything that they have been longing for 47 years is at your fingertips, and you still want to complain, and you still want to whine that the Republicans are trying to drag you back to 1955. No, they're not. And the fact that you can't one of the most hilarious things I saw today was why are Republican women or why are Republicans pretending they care about Iranian women when they don't even care about their own women? Because you don't understand Republicans if you think that's the case. Now, one of the most interesting things that I have seen with all of this is John Fetterman. I, every single day, feel worse and worse about how badly I made fun of him during his primary and then eventual election run-up. But I still stand by the fact that I'm pretty sure what happened was the dude's stroke forced his brain to be rewired, and it started making him make sense. But trust me, he's already been told by a lot of the people that helped get him in office the first time that they aren't helping him this time. So he's likely going to be primaried, but this isn't going to help either. And I quote, every member in the U.S. Senate agrees we cannot allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon. I'm baffled why so many are unwilling to support the only action to achieve that. Empty sloganeering versus commitment to global security. Which is it? U.S. Senator John Fetterman from his account at Sen Fetterman PA, March 2nd, 2026. But here's the question. Where's the lie? Now, make no mistake, John Fetterman is still a liberal Democrat. He and I probably line up 20% of the time. But when we do line up, it's almost in lockstep, which is kind of scary when you think about it, with the way most modern day liberals are today. All right, let's see what else we've got here as we get into the final moments of the program. Okay, so we have to talk about this. And believe me when I say what I'm about to say is likely going to anger some of you, but it's not meant that way. It's just a moment of perspective. So bear with me for just a second. Sorry, I thought I had this pulled up already, but I did not. All right, so this is just to put things in perspective, because this is proof to me that we, as a country, have lost our stomach to do the things that we need to do. Because these 6 people that have lost their lives, they're American heroes. They also knew what they were signing up for. We have an all-voluntary army. We haven't had a draft since Vietnam. These people that are signing up on purpose. But I need to put something in perspective for you as to how impressive our military has gotten. Because on June 6, 1944, there were a total combined number of casualties of 6,600. That was 2,500 killed and the rest either wounded, missing, or captured. Omaha Beach had 3,000 casualties. That was on day 1. That was the deadliest U.S. sector. Utah Beach, 200 casualties with significantly lighter resistance. Total Allied casualties on D-Day, U.S., British, Canadian, were about 10,000 plus, with roughly 4,400 confirmed kills. That was day 1 of Normandy. We are in day 3 of an absolute rout of the Iranian military. And we've lost 6. And I am not trying to downplay the loss of those 6 by any stretch of the imagination. But when we can do the things that we are doing to this military that we have been afraid to engage for 47 years, this military that we have been told by the sharpest minds in our military that we can't stand against them, and we are going through them like they are paper, and we're football players running onto a field. And I'm not trying to brag about it. I'm not involved in it. I'm just telling you that I know what we have been told since the 80s. We know what Iran did, but they've got they're more dangerous than you know. They're more dangerous than you know. We can't go up against them, because then Russia is going to get involved, and then North Korea is going to get involved, and then China is going to get involved. Guess what? None of that has happened. Surprising even me, to be quite honest, but none of that has happened. China has had harsh words. Russia has had harsh words, but Russia is bogged down in Ukraine. Everybody keeps asking, why do this for Iran, but not for Ukraine? Because doing this in Iran helps end Ukraine. Russia's already lost one of its partners in Venezuela. It's now about to lose one of its bigger partners in Iran. If we do this right, Donald Trump is single-handedly shifting the balance of power in the world, and doing it in ways that we have been told for my entire life were impossible. Now, again, I am not trying to downplay the loss of life. Anytime we lose a single service member, that's one too many. But this is the difference between when your military is being run by women or men in dresses versus Pete Hegseth. The shining star of all of this is Pete Hegseth. He has done things that we have been told were impossible. Let's not forget that what was it, just a month ago, we snatched Maduro out of a Snuggie in the middle of the night and said, "Hey, you're coming with us, bitch." Again, something that we were told would have been impossible. This was a huge gamble. But I'm going to say the same thing that I said on BZ's show last night. I am one of these people that has said for years that I want politicians that are going to go into situations doing what is best for us and be damned the consequences. For the long-term stability of the world, for the long-term stability of America, for the potential to be able to bring the United Kingdom and Great Britain back from the brink and most of Europe back from the brink of Islamization. All of this are dominoes that could potentially fall in the right direction to do those things. Is it going to happen? I don't know. If we start going into nation building, probably not going to be as happy as I am right now. Because again, I don't think we need to be the ones doing that. Somebody's going to have to help them reshape their government, but it doesn't have to be us. Israel is their neighbor. And as you can see, they get along with one another much more and much better than we've been led to believe. Now, again, as we talked about on BZ's show last night, most of Iran was a different sect of Muslim than the crazy we're going to bathe the world in blood ones. Which is why they tend to get along better with the Jews. Only time will tell where this ends or where it goes. But I will say this. Even knowing that now there's this new narrative coming out that the only reason we did this was because Israel was about to attack, and we knew if they attacked that Iran would hit us. And you know what? If we knew that Israel was going to attack and we decided to join in on the attack, you know what? I'm perfectly okay with that, because again, in December of 2025, the dude who is now dead put in print that he was in all-out war with the United States of America. Well, you got what you wanted. You've been in the fuck around phase for 30 years. You finally hit the found out phase, and you lasted 5 minutes. You pathetic little bitch. Sorry about your luck. Not really. Because I'm not. But, ladies and gentlemen, the other interesting thing that I really want to point out is the difference between how the media treated the death of Charlie Kirk versus the death of the Ayatollah. Because according to the Washington Post, the Ayatollah was a bushy bearded man with a kind smile, and Charlie Kirk was the devil. That pretty much tells you everything that you need to know about the American media maggots, as my good friend BZ calls them. Now, I told you, and I don't think I ever said it, but I told you at the beginning of the program I was going to tell you that it's all about the framing. This should be how Donald Trump spends the sinking of what I believe to be the majority of at least the bigger ships within the Iranian Navy. I think they still have some smaller ones, but I think all their major targets have been sunk. Last count was 11. And that should be this. He should come out and have Her Hotness tomorrow saying the United States, in its continuing battle against climate change, has decided to help create 11 new reefs. Sorry, I said wreaths. And this is where they are. It's all about the spin. He might even get the hippie vote. You never know. But again, why is the left so scared? pretty much any Iranian female who is an American citizen who is registered to vote is probably voting Republican in a few months. How much you want to bet that changes a few things? All right, so I guess we'll be getting into some of this tomorrow night. Actually, I may or may not do a special when we get done with the other stuff, if I'm up, because I don't know if I will be. But it's Republican season. It's Republican primary season in Texas tomorrow night. I'll be interested to see what happens with Jasmine Crockett for one. And I still need to do a lot of research about what's coming out with Governor Abbott. All right, so that's going to do it for this particular episode, ladies and gentlemen. I was looking real quick before I shut down to see if I have any notification about there being an Edge of Liberty. Yeah, and it looks like there is. All right, so let me get that queued up. But we're going to get out of here. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us tonight. I know it was, you're like, glad you're here, but it would have been nice if you told us. But then again, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do a show today. But oh, that's not the song I thought it was. My bad. I was trying to send us out with some bagpipey sounding stuff since we're going over to the Irish Bastage. But my name's Rick Robinson. This has been my show. Hang out for Edge of Liberty coming up next right here on the same feed. Stay tuned.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. It is not already 2026. Simulcast this evening on KLRN Radio. Thank you to our friends over there for simulcasting the show. We appreciate it greatly. Shout out to the moderators, the mods working in the chat room. Please be nice and respectful to them. They are very good people, and they're not the ones with the camera on them, and they're not the ones making the comments. So lots of love for the mods. They absolutely deserve it. I see Mr. Ready Men in there. I see Chris in there. Ricky's in the chat room. Thank you so much for being here, Ricky. You got a lot to talk about this evening. Back that off a little bit. Mood music. The world is a very different place from when we last spoke. As many of you know, over the weekend, the U.S. launched a strike on the Iranian leadership. The Iranian leadership seemingly is decapitated. There's still some people pulling handles, but it's seemingly more and more dissected and disconnected from each other. The biggest news, obviously, is that the Ayatollah was dead. Iranian news even announced that, so that's how you know it actually happened. And I'm going to get caught up on everything that's going on right now. But I kind of want to go through on how we got here. And I think context is so important when you're talking about situations like this. I think understanding the history explains what happens in modern day. And I don't think that's something that enough of us do and understand. Look, we live in the world of social media. We live in the world where everything is a 30-second sound bite. Everything is everything's a meme and a clip, and that doesn't always add context. And I know the chat room's going to be all angry with me. I can already see. What about Tucker Carlson said? I haven't respected Tucker Carlson a long time, and I think he's wrong about this as well as many other things. So when you go back in time and you start looking at Iran, you go back to modern day Iran, which is, of course, the fall in the Shah in the late 70s. The nation of Iran under the Islamic State is younger than I am, which that's kind of crazy. Since the Iranian regime came into power, their biggest export was not oil. It was terror throughout the world. Plain and simple. Terror throughout the world. Yeah, they funded that with the oil they exported. But they absolutely exported terror from the very beginning. They funded Hezbollah up about $700 million a year. You know Hezbollah, they constantly attack citizens of Israel. And I know there's so many people that hate Israel because you're anti-Semites, and that's fine. You have the right to be an anti-Semite, and I have the right not to be. Iran and Al-Qaeda, there was a connection there pre 9/11. The 9/11 Commission reported Iranian border practice was to not stamp the Saudi passports, with evidence that 8 to 10 of the 14 Saudis operatives traveled in and out of Iran in October 2000 to February 2001. The same 9/11 Commission report stated found no evidence Iran or Hezbollah was planning the attack, but they knew they were terrorists and they knew they were doing something. Al-Qaeda network was operating in Iran. Iran got sanctions as a result of that. Bin Laden later referred to Iran as a main artery for funds and personnel. And that, like I said, that has nothing to do with, I haven't even mentioned the bombings of military installations, the bombings of citizens, the killing of citizens, all the terror that's been in Yemen, Hamas, Hezbollah, has all come from Iran, has all come from the Iranian leadership. And it showed because as soon as they pressed, what's the first thing Iran started doing? They started bombing their neighbors. They didn't care, and they never have. You know, you always hear the Shia and Sunni split in the Middle East. That plays a big part in their religion. And there are other countries that have shown that you can have that split within yourselves and still not necessarily have to kill each other constantly. Yeah. Are they doing it to get rich? Sure. Is that keeping people more safe? Absolutely. And it is. Time has progressed. You've seen other countries start to actually recognize Israel, countries who 25 years earlier were bombing them. Same thing with the United States, countries that used to hate us, Jordan and other countries were now more friendly to us. Does that mean that they're our friends? No. But does that mean that they're smart enough to do business? Yes. I said this on Lyle's show Saturday. And that's okay. They don't have to necessarily love and appreciate everything they do as long as they're not trying to kill us and they're doing business with us in the world. Right? You think Pakistan's an angel state? No, Pakistan is not an angel state, but I also understand that Pakistan has some people around them that want to kill them. That showed this weekend. And the list goes on and on. So I see a lot of people. The New York Times wrote, I think I have it here because I want to read it. It was absolutely incredible to me. The obituary for the Ayatollah as if he was Santa Claus. And it was something, I may not have it. New York Times headline was Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, hardline cleric who made Iran a regional power, dies at 86. Now, first and foremost, Iran was a regional power prior under the Shah. And to say he is a hardline cleric would like calling me a food enthusiast instead of fat. He wasn't just a hardline cleric. He was murderous about his beliefs and did not care who died as long as he gained power and killed people who disagreed with him. That's who he was. And they went on and described him as an older man with a bushy beard and blah, 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 blah. And it's incredible to me what mainstream media will whitewash and will not whitewash. To whitewash the Ayatollah into some sort of angelic creature who did wonderful things for Iran. Meanwhile, Iran's starving. They have been for years. They have next to no water. They have been for years. They have plenty of drones. They have plenty of missiles. They have plenty of bombs. They were going after a nuclear weapon. We know that. They were going after a nuclear weapon for so long. And, you know, I remember a time when Democrats actually took that seriously and they understood more than just orange man bad, which unfortunately just does not exist anymore.
I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran.
Now, I'm sorry. I should have warned you I was going to play the hill dog. I should have put up a sensitivity warning, a warning in case you had a weak stomach or you were eating food. That's on me.
Whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say, but those people who run Iran need to understand that.
And look, I'm no fan of Hillary Clinton because we saw what she did in Libya, but she wasn't the only one back in the day saying that. Everybody knew before the rise of Trump that Iran was a horrible, horrible country because of its leadership, not because of its people.
It will gain access to roughly $56 billion. It is true that...
Here's another thing that we forget. And I've talked about it before, and maybe some people have talked about it, but I don't think it gets said enough. The Iranian nuclear deal was complete fucking garbage. And everyone knew it was complete fucking garbage. Here's Obama when he was trying to make the argument for it.
If Iran lives up to its commitments, it will gain access to roughly $56 billion of its own money. But
now, Iran at this point had never lived up to any commitments. And this is the problem when you have people trying to negotiate with people who absolutely were being outmatched. And Obama was outmatched by Iran in the nuclear deal. 100% outmatched. Just like his thin red lines, just like Biden saying that Russia wasn't going to invade Ukraine. Obama absolutely got played like a fucking fiddle. And then, unlike this president, Obama sent over pallets of cash to the Iranians, almost begging them, because even at that point, they were starting to break the deals and not let inspectors in. Iran had absolutely zero fucking at all determination to make that deal work. And by the way, part of that deal that got rejected was the fact that we were offering to bring the uranium to them so it could be used in their power plants. And they rejected it because they wanted to enrich their own. Why would you do that? You're a country who allegedly so poor you people are starving on a regular basis. You're a country that can't maintain a water supply for your people. Just like every other major dictator, you let everybody else actually starve. Not what we think here is suffering, like really suffer, and murder masses of people who protest against you in order to make weapons and chase the nuclear weapon. That's what, look at North Korea, look at China, right? Once they get that nuke, you do have to deal with them differently, whether you want to or not. And Iran, who said the first things that they would do if they got a nuclear weapon was start getting rid of Israel and the US and whoever else got in their way. Iran has been a problematic country since the fall of the Shah. I remember, I grew up in the city that Frank Reed, one of the Israeli American hostages in Iran, was from. And I remember meeting him when I was young, after he got released. And I remember him telling his story at like a town hall type thing. And how absolutely brutal the Iranians were to them. And it never stopped. You think about all the different wars, think about all the different military operations that they've done in the Middle East, all the terrorism. There is nothing redeeming about the leadership of Iran. Nothing. There's not a single good thing about the leadership there. They threw gay people off roof. They would absolutely beat and murder women who did not fall in line with their laws of Sharia law and whatnot. If you stepped out of line and you spoke against the regime, you were either imprisoned or murdered. Look at what happened with the last 4 sets of protests, where the people were trying to rise up against them to force a regime change. And the Ayatollah and the mullahs knew this because that's how they came to power. After the original Ayatollah hung out in France for a few years and gained power, but that's neither here nor there. So they knew when these protests rose up that if they didn't deal with them swiftly and brutally, some message went out to the other protesters of, hey, if you do this, we are going to slaughter you and your family, and you're just going to be tortured and murdered. Right? That's what the Iranian people were up against. It's not here where they claim it's fascism, but they get to vote and they get to go out and protest and they get to go online and go on social media and meet with their friends and bitch in a Starbucks coffee shop. It's not that type of fascism. It was real, actual fucking murderous dictatorship leadership. Ones that you, and I said this on Saturday on Beer and Bullstein with Lyle, I don't think that Americans can truly comprehend. I don't think I fully comprehend it. I understand the principle of it, but I don't think living under that I can comprehend. And I don't think most people either, and especially those on the left. And look, I've said this 100 times in the last weekend. The only people who are really, really upset about this are either A, the Orange Man bad crowd, the politicians who absolutely are going to use this to try to fundraise because Orange Man bad and everything Trump does is bad no matter what all the time. That's the only thing they have going for them. It's crazy to me that they have no other stance other than Orange Man bad. And then you have the people who are mad that the terrorism funding is going to be stopped. And there's nothing in between. Those two groups just absolutely stand next to each other. And now, meanwhile, you look, the Iranian people are actually celebrating both in Iran and around the world. There are videos everywhere. Yes, are the Iranian leadership celebrating? Probably not. Except for the ones that I'm almost pretty sure are working with Mossad to save their own lives. I think the rest of them are not celebrating. But the rest of the world is. And I've said, first and foremost, this isn't going to be a forever war. People that are peddling that are lying. Well, it's going to be a forever war. It's not going to be a forever war. It doesn't need to be a forever war because the people in that country wanted them gone. Part of being in long-term wars is the people of the country not wanting a change. They wanted this change. There will be insurgencies. There will be problems going on. Yes. But the majority of the people wanted the change. And the Iranian military outside of the Islamic God is so poorly paid and taken care of that odds are anything going to be better. Think back to the Iraq War when they were just absolutely giving up in droves, in masses to the Americans, with sometimes without a shot being fired. That's the same thing that's going on in Iran right now. So you have this setup. You have the understanding of the Iranian people. Okay, then it's you said you don't want war. I don't. But you also have to look at the long-term goal. And the long-term goal is to get rid of shitty people who affect us in our country and abroad, Americans abroad, and defunding all of their little terror groups that affect Americans at home and abroad. If you want the war in Ukraine to end, you should be absolutely applauding this because of the amount of weapons and oil that Iran sends to to Russia, and processes for Russia. If you want that war to end, this is a huge step to that because it does hurt Russia immensely. If you're worried about Thailand getting invaded, this hurts China immensely. 20% of their oil potentially gone. If you don't know how much fuel is important to run a military, it is the most important thing after your soldiers and equipment. That's how you keep them moving. It's how you keep logistics wins wars. So when you take that out of China's reserves, 20%, you're hurting them massively. Massively. So this isn't just about Iran. It's not just about the Iranian people. It's also geopolitics all over the world. And that's something that needs to be understood. Now, I know I'm looking at the amount of chats that are in the chat room. I haven't opened up chat since the first couple minutes of the show. I know there are the trolls in there. I know there are those who, the Iranian lovers, those who love the terrorism, who are pretending to be Americans right now. And that's fine. But you have to understand that as a leader, every once in a while, you're presented with an opportunity to make the world better. And if you start getting rid of these sort of leaderships to make the world better in a way that actually does make the world better, sometimes you have to do it, even if it's not necessarily the most popular thing in the world. Amazingly, I've seen a couple polls that as much as 55 to 60% of this country is supporting what's going on. That gives me hope. Of course, a lot of them are doing it just to support the troops, but you know what? That's okay. Supporting the troops, despite your feelings about a conflict, is a wonderful thing. It means you're actually a good person. There's a soul in there. And you're thinking, hey, I can critically think. I don't have to like this, but I can support the guys doing it because they're our guys and gals. And I wish them nothing but the best. And I have hope and I pray for them and all that. That means you're a good person. That means you can critically think. You can separate the two. But as I'm going to go into here in just a couple minutes, there are plenty of Americans who are wishing the opposite. And that to me is frightening and sad. So let's start off. This is a video out of Australia. This many flags bouncing up and down, a group of people with the Iranian flags. Normally you hear death to America, but in this one you're hearing something very different. It's a very different feel. I'm sure people are going to tell them why they're wrong. That's my favorite thing. We start with Venezuela, and we see it a lot here. So I'm looking through the chat room. I can see all the people who are not American who are absolutely furious that their friends have been toppled. And I'm really sorry. This is so hard for you. God, it must be. It's funny because I would hate it if I adored a dictator who was going to take over or who wanted to take over the world and bomb the US off the planet. And if they were dead, I'd be upset too. Let's see. Oh, gosh. Yeah.
And reduced cooperation with international
concerns of the Obama administration, or sorry, the Biden administration about Iran. And here's Peppermint Patty.
Inspectors. Their breakout period is down from about a year, which is what we knew it was during the deal, to just a few weeks or less. Iran has rapidly accelerated its nuclear program and reduced cooperation with international inspectors. Their breakout period is down from about a year, which is what we knew it was during the deal, to just a few weeks or less. Iran has rapidly accelerated its nuclear.
Talking about how they're not living up to their part of the deal. And that's the Biden administration. So that's absolutely telling. So then we get into the politics at home. And the politics at home has been absolutely hysterical because one of my favorite things to see out of American politicians is when they start calling things illegal with the War Powers Act. And it tells me that they don't understand the War Powers Act whatsoever that was passed in 1973. Now, Biden administration had the House, the Senate, and the White House Obama administration had the same. At any point, they could have changed the War Powers Act, and they didn't. And for those who don't know, it's because they know deep down inside that the president has to make decisions, certain things, and it's a political football. If you're the other side of the political aisle from the president, you can fundraise off of, oh, this was a horrible idea and we need to stop this and blah, 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 blah. And both sides do this, admittedly. Both sides do this. However, the Democrats seem to do this a hell of a lot more. But that's what the War Powers Act has become. It's why the conservatives never tried to strip it away from Obama and Biden. Both sides know that needs to be the way it is, and you're not going to change it. It's just like immigration when they were crying about, oh, we need to change immigration after the fact, even though they had the power to do it, and they never fucking did it. Democrats lie through their teeth every chance they get. So as we go through the War Powers Act and you start seeing these politicians who are just doing nothing, but talking about how this is illegal, how it shouldn't be what we're focused on, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, the last guy, they never said shit about the inflation going through the roof that's now down to what, 2% from 9 at one point or 11 at one point, whatever ridiculousness it was. Gasoline is down. A lot of things in this country are down. Some things are still coming down, admittedly. But then you start finding out all the people who were against this. The internet's forever, folks, and things have a tendency to pop up and bite you in the ass. Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna. Thomas Massie, who is the biggest anti-Trumper out there, and who I think is nothing. I think he's one of the biggest grifters going. I think he knows that libertarians love libertarians, so he plays a libertarian on TV just so they throw him money because there's not too many other libertarian candidates that are as mainstream. I don't think he's as libertarian as he truthfully is. But they both got an award from a guy, and I'm looking for the name of it. I had it here somewhere, and you can look this up. I'm not making it up. I know everyone in the chat room will say I am, blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit. From an Iranian paid lobbyist lobbying for America. He got an award from both of them. It's the funniest thing to me in the world that he would take an award from a country that stands against everything a libertarian does for the most part. But he took the award from them, and it does start to beg the question, what else has he taken from them? And then you have leaders who, and I've said this before, and I was so wrong about John Fetterman. I like the fact that, hey, Fetterman does not always agree with Trump, but Fetterman has no problem admitting when he does. And if you'd have told me last year, I got 4 minutes before the break. If you told me last year that I was going to have a show praising John Fetterman for being a realistic human being, I would have told you were batshit crazy. But no, out of all the Democrats right now, John Fetterman is the most even-keeled, realistic Democrat senator out there. And he's come out and said he would not vote for the War Powers Act. He'd vote against it. And he said that he believes in this mission. He thinks that, and he supports the president. It's incredible to me to actually see somebody do that. It's especially from the Democrats, because like I said, they're all lock in step with Orange Man Bad. Hakeem Jeffries, the same thing. It's so funny how quickly they will shit on the American troops by not even mentioning or supporting them during this, but they will absolutely talk about the operation itself without mentioning them, which really says a lot. They'll throw something out. We've had unfortunately, four members, American service members who've perished as a result of this operation. And a lot of them have done the walk away. Oh yeah. And oh yeah. Well, oh gosh. Yeah. I forgot to mention the troops type thing. And it's very obvious they don't give a flying fuck. They're just mad that all the same shit that's been going on for years is finally being uprooted. Because look, Iran has been a merry-go-round. They get loud. We put sanctions on them. They blow up a bunch of shit. We tell them not to do it again. And then it's been going on and on and on. The same thing we saw with Russia. Russia has repeatedly gone after other neighbors. And just before the Ukraine invasion, everybody was saying they're about to do this. But because we keep doing the same policies of bullshit with them and we don't try to break these cycles that we're in, these deep state cycles, if you will, where people just keep making money because the same things can happen and you're caught in this doom loop. Trump wasn't waiting for that here. And if it disrupts China's future needs or wants and Russia's and other bad actors like North Korea, then it makes the world a better place whether you like it or not. And that's the reality of where we live right now. When I come back from the break, I'm going to start talking about the operation itself, to show you some videos, talk about some pretty incredible things that have actually happened, both good and bad, talk about some allies that have done some positive things, some allies that are trying to get on the train after it's too late, and a whole lot more right here on the SHR Media Network.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the SHR Media Shop. This is not just merch, it is a statement. SHR Media is built as a rebellion against the mainstream. We deliver truth without a filter or permission. When you wear our gear, you are standing for liberty and unapologetic free thought. Every piece is a badge of support for independent journalism. Wear it loud, wear it proud. Support the mission and join the rebellion at the SHR Media web store.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
So, Madam Speaker, Madam Leader, you're saying that the president did not need authorization initially and still does not need any authorization from Congress on Libya?
Yes.
Thank you both.
Thank you all very much.
So, Madam Speaker,
What's going on right now, except he went in And their reasoning for doing it was very different. They needed the country to be a mess so they could turn around and run guns to the Free Syrian Army, which is exactly what they were doing. Let's talk about the operation a little bit, and I want to give a shout out to a couple people who I thought really bunked the narrative of the mainstream media, some of them being the media itself. And then just honestly, I don't do this a lot, but there's a couple moments that have come out of this that have shown some real humanity, and I want to show how much appreciated it was. First of all, for people saying that Trump goes against everything he says, here's Trump a couple of years ago before running for office the first time. Sorry about that. That did not show on the stream. Hold on one second. This is Trump talking about Iran.
He asked me what I do, and I said, I'm going to bomb the shit out of them.
Oh, there you go.
It's true.
Goes back in, 2016. So it's not like he's going against stuff that he said. So the attack happened Friday night and a Saturday morning. It was highly effective right off the bat. We all know Iran's air defenses were diminished from the Israeli attacks from the war back in June and May. And the attacks that we did in the nuke plants back in June as well. So the resistance was not expected to be high. And to put it in perspective, yeah, there's some missiles that have made it through some air defenses. That is an unfortunate reality of just the law of averages. It's going to unfortunately happen. No air defense is perfect. The biggest losses that America has taken has been one missile that made it through a defense system. That's what caused the 3 lives. And then the shoot down from the Kuwaiti air defenses of the American F-15s. Not a whole lot else going on from Iran. As a matter of fact, the U.S. announced today that all of Iran's primary Navy boats have been sank. Sunk? Sunk? Either way, they're underneath the water now. They are no longer boats. They're doing their best submarine impression, as we see right here. So Iran doesn't have an air force anymore for the most part. They don't have a navy for the most part. Every single time they set off a missile, they expose that site, and the potential for that site becoming no longer a site goes really, really fast. The memes are... The one thing I will say that's absolutely crazy to me in modern warfare is the amount of comedy that comes out of it and the memes that are coming out of it, because the running joke of Marco Rubio on the couch has to be one of my favorite memes of the last 10 years. It is just hysterical, and I don't care if you like Marco or not, just all the different jobs that he's been tasked with and then all the memes that people make. But here's a picture of Marco telling Trump, and he came with his own diorama, that the Iranian Navy has been defeated. Hold on. There it is. And I get some more comical stuff that has come out of this, because you have to find a way to laugh. I mean, it's scary otherwise. And you go back to Democrats who once supported this action and now are entirely against it. Here's Bill Kristol. I know everyone says he's a conservative. He's not a conservative. To POTUS, this is back in 2024. If you're alarmed by the possible consequences of Israel responding to Iran's attack, you should order a strong U.S. response, e.g. an air campaign to degrade Iranian drone and missile capabilities, which is exactly what's going on right now. Bill Kristol, who does nothing but shit on President Trump. And it'll be interesting to see how they respond. J.K. Rowling put out a pretty... And I don't get caught up into the J.K. Rowling thing on a regular basis. I just don't. Like, I know there's the whole trans argument going on with her, and she's really stood her ground, and cool. I think it's fine. I think it's great. But I thought this post was really important. It shows what a lot of people are thinking. It says, if you claim to support human rights, yet you can't bring yourself to show solidarity with those fighting for liberty in Iran, you're revealed yourself. You don't give a damn about people being oppressed and brutalized, so as long as it's done by the enemies of your enemies. And it's true. You see that a lot. You watch the pro-Palestine movement in this country who's screaming about Palestine but doesn't give a shit about the Iranian people. You saw today Lebanon, who all of a sudden felt empowered by the fact that Iran's probably not going to be able to support Hezbollah like it once did, if at all, and is now ordering Hezbollah out of the country to put down their arms. If you don't understand that relationship, Hezbollah pretty much, because their forces were stronger, a terrorist organization than the Lebanese military by and large, because of the support from Iran, they were pretty much living unimpeded and attacking Israel and other countries and other places through southern Lebanon. And the whole southern Lebanon was pretty much Hezbollah. Not every single person, but I'm talking about the basis. And you're now seeing this shift. You see the Saudi government talking about getting into an attack position against Iran because the missiles went over there. You saw Jordan, who's already involved. What you also saw was a very petrified Keir Starmer, who did not want to be involved in the attack overtly because he was afraid of the backlash from the Muslim community at home. That's all he's afraid of. He's a guy hanging by a thread. He didn't know what else to do. But to the credit of him, he did have them helping with refueling in defensive positions. So thank you to the UK folks that are doing that, the actual awesome people in the UK, not the government shitbags. I found this hysterical. Every single conflict, when there is a NOTAM set out killing the airspace for a region, you saw this with Venezuela, you saw this meme always shows up. And it's always a picture that's titled Leroy Jenkins, and if you don't get that reference, then it's time for you to go to bed, or you can Google it. And here was the Iran strike, Leroy Jenkins. I don't know what plane this was. I don't know where it was, but of course this was titled Leroy Jenkins. Again, you got to find the comedy in some of this stuff, because if you don't, you'll drive yourself absolutely crazy. This rocket hit some trucks. This shows you the mindset of some of the badasses in our military, and I give them all the credit in the world. Here's a rocket or a drone attack, and I'm going to stop my music because I know my music playing in the background. I want you to listen to what the soldier says in the background and see if you can pick it up. Here.
That's my fucking truck.
For those who didn't hear that, he said, "That's my fucking truck." Other interesting news. I'll tell you, the game of 1, 2, 3, Not It. Did you play that growing up as a kid? I did. That's how, like, when you were playing tag or something like that, whoever was it first, that's how you decided who was going to be it or not it. Everyone ran around and said 1, 2, 3, Not It. I'm guessing that for the position of Ayatollah right now, everybody's playing 1, 2, 3, Not It, because the next Ayatollah that was announced was dead within 8 hours of being announced. And that's, somebody said he didn't even get vested in his retirement in that position. He didn't have a chance. But he did apparently get a Guinness World Record, which is going to be the shortest reign of supreme leader ever. And here is a photo of that. There it is. That's him getting the Guinness Book of World Records. So congrats. I guess on some level you won. Oh, just comments. Interesting comment too. For those who don't know, I live in California. I'm very familiar with Gavin Newsom. Deal with him all the time. Gavin Newsom allowed 2 gasoline plants to close because he's so shitty at running a state they couldn't deal with it anymore, so they left. Since that started, and since the just before the election, the California Air Resources Board had a vote essentially making it harder for any of the gas producing facilities in California It made the standards so ridiculous that it was going to be they all essentially would have to completely redo their infrastructure, and it would cost billions of dollars, yada yada yada. The prices of fuel were going to go up. That happened before the last election. Outside of the state, nobody talks about that. If you were inside the state, you're paying attention to it. The CAR board is, of course, a non-elected bureaucratic green energy scam organization in California that decides all of the emission standards for California. The gas prices have been rising well before anything happened with Iran. While the rest of the country was going down, California was still going up. And today or yesterday, Newsom was immediately like, "Oh God, gas prices are already going up in California." Because no, gas prices are up in California because we pay $1.67 a gallon in fucking taxes alone. Gavin, you fuckstick. Sorry, I had to get that out of my system because the amount of bullshit that comes out of politicians, and if you don't pay attention, and I know I can see the chat rooms going batshit crazy just by the numbers ticking up. I don't have it open. I just get a tally of how many chats have gone up since I've last looked. But if you don't pay attention to politicians, Gavin Newsom is the worst. I mean, he is almost like a caricature. In overt, back in the slapstick comedy days, he would be a governor because of how bad he was at his job. If you ever saw Blazing Saddles, he was the governor from Blazing Saddles. Didn't give a shit about what was going on as long as he was getting elected. And to quote the movie, "We have to keep our phony baloney jobs, gentlemen." Then that absolutely is Gavin Newsom. Let's see. I got a couple other things I'll get to. What do I have? 15 minutes left. Let's see. Here's a I saw this, and this isn't the only video. There are other ones out there. I just don't have them prepped for the show. This happened over Kuwait when the 3 F-15s were shot down by Kuwaiti Air Defense. It was a friendly fire incident. It's unfortunate. And this is one of the pilots who had to eject from her plane, and she landed. And listen to what the people who are approaching her are saying, because I'll tell you right now, it's when you're dealing with conflicts like this and you're dealing with situations like this that are unbelievably high stress. There's a lot of video out there about the devastation that's going on. There's a lot of video out there about the military action. There's a lot of negativity involved. Some even with me, admittedly so. Now, I'm not perfect and I don't ever claim to be. But this video made me feel great. Listen to what this gentleman says as he's approaching this down pilot who's okay, thank goodness. She's up, she's starting to gather her equipment. She's a U.S. pilot. She's doing what kick-ass U.S. pilots do, right? And just listen to the words coming out of his mouth, because this was just awesome.
You're fine? Really? You need something to help you? No problem, you're safe. You're safe, you're safe. Everything good? No problem. Thank you for helping us. Everything perfect?
You're safe, you're safe. Everything's fine. And then he said, "Thank you for helping us." And I'll tell you, that was one of those things, and I know I'm probably just getting older as I approach the big 50 in my life. I know I'm getting probably a little softer in the heart, but that actually struck me. Because it just goes to show you that there is humanity everywhere. And even when things are difficult or violent or scary, that there are still people that can have a moment like that and show you that there are still really good humans out there. However different of a lifestyle they may lead from mine or whatever, that's being a good person to be a good person. So I applaud that gentleman. I hope that we reach out to him as a nation and do something nice for him and them, because that was incredible for them to do. Qatar also shot down 2 Soviet-era Iranian bombers over Qatar, which shows you that the Iranians, who their air force is all but gone now, like I said earlier, but they were trying to overtly bomb their neighbor nations. And then as you get on the media, it's so fun. It's really fun to me to see mainstream media have to put something up that they don't agree with. And this is CNN. CNN is absolutely libtard central outside of Scott. I can't think of his last name. Scott over there. They they're just leftists, and they've been for years. All they do is just drool absolute leftist propaganda, and they were forced to play this in its entirety the other night.
I think that it is imperative the Democratic Party wake up and get past their dislike of Donald Trump, the President Trump, and their feelings of international conflicts going on. This is about national security. This is about what is possible in the Middle East. This is about being a good neighbor, good partner to the Gulf states and what their aspirations are. This is about supporting the people of Venezuela. This is about dismembering our relationship with, or not dismembering, but resetting our relationship with China. Right now, 55% of the oil production that Iran produces goes to China despite sanctions. You want to support
I
the
don't know why
people
the
of
video
Ukraine,
froze.
you
I
want to end that
apologize,
war,
but
you have to.
did you see Dana Bash just cringing that she had to allow that? And that's how the Democrats are. They, anytime somebody says something to the effect of, well, you can't just be automatically anti-Trump. They go batshit crazy. They can't stomach it. They can't process it. They can't identify it because it's such a foreign thing. I've said before, I'll say again, Trump's tears could cure cancer, and the Democrats would be pissed that he didn't cry enough. There's no right answer. You're never going to win over those people. I know that. I'm not here to try to win over those people. I'm here, hopefully, talking to independents who think independently and utilize critical thinking and say, yeah, you know what? Maybe I don't agree with everything about Donald Trump. Maybe I don't agree with everything about conservatives, but I can meet you X, Y, and Z here, and then we can talk from there. Great. Love it. Want to talk to you about that. Let's have that conversation. I'm okay with that. But I know most people, they're just not going to. I mean, especially on the internet, you have the trolls, you have the people that live in mom's basement, you have the guys that have 2 or 3 accounts that come into a chat room like ours, and they will sit there and say something obnoxious and then swatch to the next channel or to the next tab and reply to that obnoxious quote as a supporter of it. And then a third one, though, I've already seen 2 or 3 of them tonight that you can tell are answering their own posts. And then you get guys like this and social media who Cenk Uygur is proving once again that he is one of the biggest pieces of shit on the planet. Cenk wrote, I criticized Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei 1,000 times. He was oppressing his own people and preventing democracy. But there's one thing you can't take away from him. He died on his own 2 feet instead of kneeling to Israel. That took courage. He did not bow. So you throwing out the whole, yeah, I think he's a shitbag, and then turning around and talking about how he stood up against Israel leaves out the whole murdered a lot of people part of who he was. It's the equivalent of saying like, well, yeah, Hitler might have killed a lot of people. Stalin might have murdered a lot of people, his own people by and large. Pol Pot might have murdered a lot of people. Kim Jong-un might have murdered a lot of people. Mao might have, Che Guevara murdered a lot of people. The list goes on. But let's talk about all the good things they did. Hey, Hitler got the trains running on time, right? Why aren't we applauding that? That's the same type of statement. There's no good when you're talking about people like Ayatollah. There's absolutely no good. And then the Iranian government, where's this picture? Because they put this out, and man, I'll tell you, when you're already dealing with an image issue with the Islamic community and how they approach young women and young boys, and it's very problematic. And then the Iranian government comes out and puts out a picture of, oh, where is it? I have it here somewhere. My scrolling fingers exhausted. Puts this photo out. It's really hard to square this up. They say this is the Ayatollah in heaven, and look at what he's surrounded by. All children. And what's supposed to happen if you die a martyr in the Muslim religion? You're supposed to be surrounded by virgins. So what's that implying right there? It's gross. It's fucking disgusting. I get it. Like they're a country falling apart and everything's, but still, it's just, I saw that and I was just like, man, you're not fucking helping yourself. If that whole point was to try to win anybody over, you're absolutely not fucking helping yourself. Here's another image, and this was from 2024 when then candidate Yeah, then candidate. No, yeah, then candidate Harris. Sorry, I was doing the math in my head to make sure I had that tense right. Harris to Jewish voters, all options are on the table to stop Iran from going to nuclear war. Charges Trump won't stand by Israel. Harris suggested that Trump would not stand by Israel. She noted that in 2020, he chose not to retaliate when Iran fired 15 missiles at U.S. bases. When Donald Trump was president, he let Iran off the hook. And man, that's not looking good for her politically right now because he just proved her wrong and a lot of other people. I mentioned Fetterman's comments earlier about Operation Epic Fury. I have those here right now. Specifically, Fetterman said, Operation Epic Fury, President Trump has been willing to do what's right and necessary to produce real peace in the region. God bless the United States, our great military, and Israel. And, I mentioned earlier, and I'll mention it again, for all the things I disagree with him on, I thought that was a strong statement of saying, hey, we support our country one way or the other, and sometimes you have to do the hard things. And then you start talking about people who I'm sure many people like this woman are in our chat room right now. I'm guessing. She is a former, and I'm going to pull her up here in a second. She is a former aide or campaign aide, to be specific, to Senator Elizabeth Warren. And I'm looking for this as well. I had so many pictures and posts put out tonight. I wanted to show you, and I'm not going to have enough time with 5 minutes left. The Catherine Herridge, if you haven't followed Catherine Herridge, she put out this whole thing of Iran giving out dirty warheads for use for terror attacks that came from the Department of Justice in War Department in 2020. If you have a chance, look that up because I think that's absolutely incredibly telling. Let me get down to this little maggot that I wanted to talk about. Where is she? Calla Walsh. Calla Walsh has been all over. I bet you this video got taken down. Oh, it did. Her sign on an X is Calla Walsh, and she has been absolutely shitting. And this is again somebody who's a campaign aide. Getting tired. My words are starting to come out in bunches. Campaign aide for Pocahontas. So it tells you who they will surround themselves with. And in this video that it won't play, it's been taken down. But to quote, glory to all martyrs, glory to the axis of resistance. May we see victory within our lifetime, Marg Bar America, and other ones. And this is, when we talk about this country, that there are people within this country, and she's an American girl, or she should be, about people that just fundamentally hate this country and are in our nation and despise everything about it. That's what we're dealing with. And that's the problem we have with a lot of the youth. They've been so brainwashed by the left through the years that they think this country is absolutely horrific, but praise other countries like Iran. Going through, I got 4 minutes left, 3 minutes left. Holy shit, this hour went by quick. Let's see. Here's her original post. This is from her. This is Calla. Every single U.S. and Israeli official is a legitimate target wherever they are in the world. She just put that out on March 2nd. So again, this is what we're dealing with at home. People that fundamentally hate our nation and want to be destroyed. The good news is for her, I think the number is 46 right now, and this is just a small number of top Iranian leaders have been eliminated. That's just a couple of them, including 2 Ayatollahs in 1 week, 2 birds in 1 stone, so to speak. So that's going well for them. Let's see. What do I have time for? There's another quote from that Calla Walsh girl. The only real justice for Imam Khomeini and for all the martyrs will be a total and complete dismantling of the U.S. and Israel. Anything less is capitulation, which is not going to happen. They've convinced them that that's stuff like that's going to happen. It's not going to happen. You had Senator Mark Warner openly lie about the intelligence that he never saw or was given and how it didn't meet what's going on right now. That was a ridiculous statement. And this is, as I said earlier, this is all the left is doing. They're repeatedly lying about everything that they possibly can because Orange Man bad. Their hate for Trump is larger than their love for America, and that's a tremendous fucking problem. Before we go, I want to mention and something that many experts have warned. We talked about this Saturday. Lyle and I did on his show, which you got to check out Friday and Saturday, 7 p.m. Pacific. I'll tell you more before we go to the break. Was the shooting in Austin, Texas. The suspect, I believe he was from Senegal, was a Muslim, went and attacked a bar. These sort of lone wolf style attacks are going to start being an issue. We talk about the open borders under Biden and how many people came over and are waiting for an opportunity. Born and raised in countries that hate us, including Iran, and coming over here told to take opportunities, and many will. And you need to be aware of that, because that's unfortunately the world we live in. We go after the military and the leadership, and they'll go after the schools and the children and the babies. And you got to keep that in mind. So you need to keep your head on a swivel, as Mission Ready Men says, and be aware of your surroundings at all times. That being said, I'll be back Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on the SHR Media Network. But it's not just me. Oh, no. There are way better shows than mine on the SHR Media Network. Every Monday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific. Now on the East Coast, you have Reaver Common Sense, my bud Jersey Joe, who's just been ripping it up over there. Tuesday, Thursdays at noon Eastern, you have Mission Ready Men Report with my pal Big E, Tuesday and Thursday night, and he is back. He was back last night. You have BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on the SHR Media Network. That's at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. And then the new guy, the FNG, the fucking rookie, Lyle Armstrong, and his show Beer and Bullstein, Fridays and Saturdays, 7 p.m. on the East Coast, 4 p.m. Pacific. Go to shrmedia.com. Lyle has been there and done that, retired from the military, EOD. He is absolutely dialed, so make sure you check out his show. Thank you to our friends over at KLRN Radio for the simulcast this evening. We greatly appreciate it. That's it for me. I will talk to you Wednesday at 8 p.m. Thanks for stopping by.